Released in 1986 by Atari, Solaris is one of the more ambitious titles for the Atari 2600, pushing the console's hardware to its limits with its expansive space shooter concept. While not as widely recognized as some other Atari classics, Solaris stands out for its impressive visuals, unique gameplay, and grand scope. It's a space combat game that blends elements of strategy, exploration, and action, offering a rare glimpse into what could have been the future of the Atari 2600, had the system not been overshadowed by more powerful consoles. Solaris for the Atari 2600 offers a uniquely ambitious take on the space shooter genre, combining traditional shoot-'em-up mechanics with strategic exploration and resource management. This gameplay depth was rare on the Atari 2600, a console known for its simpler, more arcade-like titles. Solaris's gameplay is multifaceted and requires players to juggle multiple objectives at once, creating a dynamic and challenging experience. At the heart of Solaris is its expansive map, divided into multiple sectors of space, each with its own unique challenges. The player controls a spaceship that must travel through these sectors, each containing enemy ships, hostile asteroids, and colonies that need protection. The game's design encourages exploration, rather than simply advancing through a series of linear levels, which was unusual for a space shooter at the time. The sectors are represented on the screen as large, complex maps filled with different elements. The player's ship can move between these sectors, which means that the game isn't just about clearing waves of enemies, but also about navigating a vast space environment. This map-based structure allows players to choose where to go next, deciding which sectors to conquer and which colonies to defend, depending on where the greatest threats are located. As players explore, they encounter various obstacles, and their ship can be damaged by enemies or asteroids, adding another layer of strategic consideration to the gameplay. A standout aspect of Solaris is its emphasis on colony protection. Some sectors in the game are home to peaceful colonies that are constantly under attack by enemy forces. These colonies act as vital points that players must defend from hostile invaders. If an enemy ship destroys a colony, the player loses valuable resources, and the sector becomes more difficult to manage. The player must not only focus on clearing enemies, but also on protecting these colonies by taking out the attacking ships before they can do significant damage. In order to keep colonies safe, the player has to balance their time and resources between offensive combat and defensive tactics. If you focus too much on attacking enemy ships without protecting the colonies, you may find the sector becomes unmanageable, and you fail to complete the level. On the flip side, focusing too much on defense may leave you vulnerable to enemy ambushes or asteroid fields. Finding this balance is key to success in Solaris, and it provides a more nuanced approach to the space shooter genre than many other Atari 2600 games. Given the limitations of the Atari 2600's hardware, Solaris's graphics are impressive for their time. The space backdrop is filled with stars, planets, and nebulas, giving a sense of vastness and depth that was uncommon on the Atari. The ships and explosions are all clearly rendered, despite the system's graphical restrictions, with bright, vibrant colors that stand out against the deep blackness of space. The game's visual design focuses on clarity, allowing players to distinguish between enemies, colonies, and obstacles easily. The starfield scrolling gives a nice sense of movement as you travel between sectors, and the game's use of multi-layered screens is a technical achievement for the Atari 2600. Sound-wise, Solaris features a variety of beeps, blips, and explosions that were standard for the era, but the sound design does a good job of maintaining tension and creating an immersive experience. While the music is limited, it sets the tone well for a space-themed shooter. Solaris can be a bit overwhelming at first, especially given the vast scope of the game. The combination of enemy fleets, asteroid fields, and the need to protect colonies can be challenging to manage, and learning how to balance offensive and defensive actions is key to progression. The difficulty ramps up as you progress through the sectors, with the final level, the fortress, providing a particularly difficult challenge that requires both strategy and quick reflexes. The game's non-linear structure, with multiple sectors to explore and conquer, adds considerable replay value. There's a sense of accomplishment in successfully defending all the colonies and taking down each sector's fortress, as each playthrough presents new challenges. Solaris keeps players coming back for more, even if the challenge becomes repetitive over time. Solaris was a late-era release for the Atari 2600, coming out when the console was on its way out and the gaming industry was beginning to shift towards more powerful systems. While it didn't achieve the same level of fame as other Atari titles like Space Invaders or Asteroids, it holds a special place in the hearts of retro gaming enthusiasts. The game's ambitious nature, blending space combat with exploration, resource management, and strategy, made it one of the more complex and immersive games available for the Atari 2600. In many ways, it can be seen as a precursor to more expansive space exploration games that would emerge in the years to follow, like Star Control or Elite. Solaris's multi-sector approach, with both offensive and defensive gameplay, is reminiscent of the space strategy games that would become more popular in the 1990s and beyond. Although it never achieved commercial success, Solaris is considered a cult classic and is often celebrated for what it accomplished on the Atari 2600. Its innovative design and attempts to push the boundaries of the console's capabilities make it an essential title for those interested in the history of space shooters or the Atari 2600's hidden gems. Solaris may not be the most widely known or played game on the Atari 2600, but it's certainly one of the most impressive, both in terms of scope and technical execution. Its combination of space exploration, shooter mechanics, and resource management sets it apart from other games of the era. Despite the Atari 2600's hardware limitations, the game feels grand, ambitious, and enjoyable. If you enjoy space shooters or retro games that push the envelope, Solaris is a must-play and a testament to what the Atari 2600 was capable of at the end of its life cycle.